morning. Thank you for joining us as we all gather together. I can see that some participants are still joining. I will just do a very, very quick introduction of what today is about and what you can expect. So, as some of you know, I can see some familiar names in here. So I can see some repetition. You have been to the previous editions of the Growth Bite series, and you probably know that today is ultimately the final session of the Growth Bite series. Today, we're going to be talking about Boma in action. And just as a quick reference, Boma is a marketing platform, digital marketing platform designed specifically for accounting practices. Before we launch into the important part of this webinar, just a quick introduction. Accounting CPD, or ACPD for short, has been around for 25 years, delivering accounting continuing professional development for 15. And our claim to fame is that we have mastered the concept of active learning provided digitally. So we do tend to believe that we deliver the best possible, best in class accounting CPD possible internationally. I shall not present Boma today. I will leave this to Charles, but just a quick run through. This is the eighth edition of the Growth Bite webinar series, where we tackled digital marketing issues one at a time, talking specifically about the important parts and how to really address all things digital marketing for accounting practices. And now I'll hand it over to Charles to introduce Boma and take us through how the platform works and how everything that we have shown you could be done with just one platform. So take it away,
Brilliant.
Charles.
Thanks, Nina. And welcome back, everyone, to the final session, as Nina said, in our Growth Bite series. And over the past 7 weeks, we've been on a bit of a journey. We've covered everything, as Nina said, from defining why marketing is important for accounting firms, why you need to build trust, how to create engaging content. We've looked at email best practice, covered some of the fundamentals of social media, covered websites, some quick website wins, and then last week we talked about AI and marketing. And today we're bringing it all together, as Nina said, with a practical tool that makes all of this easier, and that basically is the Boma platform. And I'm really excited to show you this platform because we work with accounting firms across the world, but especially in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. They're quite similar markets, as I'm sure you can imagine. And the firms that we work with actually use Boma to implement a lot of the strategies and tactics that we've been talking about over the past 7 weeks. And the real benefit to them is that they do it without adding hours to their already busy weeks. They do it without adding significant costs. And they do it even though for many of them, marketing is something that they are not experts in. They're numbers first, they're accountants, they're not necessarily marketing experts. So yeah, I'll get into it and talk about, why we're different. And I think a good place to start is if you think about your current marketing setup, and I realize that this might be, for some of you, you might have almost nothing in hand. For others, you might have a bit of a tech stack. And I suppose that really is the genesis of Boma, kind of we're the anti-tech stack in a way. You don't have to have multiple tools to do what you need to do with marketing. And if I think of a traditional marketing tech stack for an accounting firm, perhaps you've got MailChimp or Constant Contact for your emails. And then for social, you've got maybe Buffer or Hootsuite. Now, in terms of content, are you using a copywriter? Are you chasing partners or sort of junior staff within your firm for content? And then you're tracking everything in a spreadsheet. So it all sort of becomes a bit of a process. And so Boma was designed really to unify all of that for accountants, and we only work with accountants, to unify it all into one platform that is easy to use and designed especially for accountants. And the best part is that when you think about your marketing, whether we talk about building trust or sending emails or socials, that's all great to talk about. But the one thing that really a lot of accountants get stuck with is that they think, okay, that's great. I want to send an email or I want to send a social post or I want to have something to talk about in my blog. What am I going to say? And that's where really Boma comes in. And that's what really differentiates us. Oh, sorry. from all the other software platforms out there. So the idea here is that basically we've got the expert content ready when you need it. So in Boma, there's a content library, and you can see a little screenshot of that on the right of the slide. And that really has uh, all the articles that you would ever need to use to send out um, to your customers, also to your clients, to your prospective clients. And the thing here is that this content is written by humans, and not only are they humans, but they are qualified accountants and they're also financial journalists. So they are experts when they talk, when they're talking about strategy and management and advisory and compliance. It's not that we've just got some random copywriter down the way to write it. We actually are relying on experts in their fields. And as a result, because it's not generic content, we can specialize. So we cover a whole range of topics that are going to be relevant to your clients, whatever business sector or industry they're in. So compliance and tax are obviously pretty much non-negotiable and they need to be in there. But as accountants move away from just providing, that sort of more basic and tax advice to the sort of more advisory element, there's a whole lot of other topics that people can, that people want to learn about. So we also cover, the advisory journey, management and strategy, technology for these businesses, sales and marketing advice, and obviously people and HR. So whatever type of business, whatever stage of business they're in, whatever the sort of specific time of year they're in, there will always be something to share in Boma. And the articles change or are updated every week. So every week, no matter what is happening out there in the world, we're going to be covering it. So if there's the budget announcement, like the autumn budget, which came out recently, or it's in a financial year, or the tax law change, the content is going to be written in Boma within about 24 hours. And the point here is that as you want to inform your clients speedily before they start thinking, oh, where else can I go and find out that information? So you can come into Boma and find the information therein. And you don't have to sort of sit down at 9 o'clock and think, God, how am I going to get this email or sort of this update out? And the best bit, and this is what sets us apart, and you may be familiar with some old content style services from maybe sort of 10, 15 years ago, and they would provide you with a PDF that you could send out to your clients. Now, the difference between this content and the old PDF style is that that PDF was locked. So whatever your content provider had put in that PDF was pretty much what you had to say, and it probably wasn't able to be branded with your logo or your colors. Whereas in Boma, all the content that is here, it is free and open for you to customize. You can customize everything. It might be the introduction. You might want to add your own insights or examples. You might want to adjust the tone to match either your specific tone or your firm's tone. If you want to change the images, that's cool. You can go to our free image library and select one. You can upload your own. And the idea here is that whether you choose to customize that content piece manually or use Boma's built-in AI to do it for you in just a couple of minutes, the point is it will take much less time. It will be much easier because, as I'm sure everyone's experienced, if you're given something to edit, something that's pre-written, and you just go in and edit it, we've all had the experience, and you were able to do that in 5 or 10 minutes. If you're asked to write something from scratch, just sort of said, here's a topic, go, give me 500 words, you sort of, it's like staring, staring off into space thinking, good Lord, where am I going to get this, what have I got to say? So with Boma's content library, you get the credibility of the expert content, but you can still make it sound like you, which is obviously important because your clients or your prospective clients, they want to work with humans. Obviously, that's why they come to you, and hopefully you've got that relationship with them. And so the content that comes from you, obviously if you've got it from Boma, you want to make it sound like you, which is really important. So let me outline how this works in practice for our users. So they go into the content library and a little bit like Netflix, they browse the library and they look for an article, or if they're doing a newsletter, maybe a series of articles that they want to share. So let's pick one. Let's think about, say, cash flow management. It's a pretty, consistent topic and one of our highest rated articles of all time. So you choose it, you go in and customize it with Content Assist and decide which channels you want to send it out to. So if you want to send it out as an email, done. LinkedIn post, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, done. If you want to share it to your website blog through a sync, that's all possible. And the magic here is that when you select any and all of those channels, Boma takes the content, the articles, any tables within the uh, the images, and automatically formats it correctly for each channel. So if it's your email, the email will always look professional. It will have your logo, your branding, and you're never going to have sort of images or formatting that goes sort of askew. The social posts will be just the right length and they'll click through to the full length articles. And again, your blog post, you're never going to have to sort of worry about copying and pasting and having the HTML go wrong. We do it all for you in the background. Then lastly, it's just a case of saying, okay, I want to schedule this to be sent out at a particular time and date in advance. And what we notice, there are sort of two types of users we see in Boma. We've got the super planners, and so they'll come in once a month and they'll plan 8 or 9 social posts and 3 or 4 emails, and they'll do it all on sort of like, the first Thursday of the month. It'll take them 2 or 3 hours, and then they're done, and we don't see them for another month unless there's sort of something important that comes out during that month and they want to send a one-off social post or email. Then we've got the people who come in every week. So every week they'll come in and browse the library, think about what they want to say, and so they'll sort of come in for shorter periods and then send out stuff just for that week. But the point is, whether you're setting up, a month in advance or just a few days in advance, you can do it all really, really easily. Um, and then that's before we've talked about the various Zapier integrations that we have. So we're just launching our XPM integration, and that means that you can sync across all your contacts and tags, so your single source of truth from your practice management system. And that also extends to other practice management systems like Karbon and QuickBooks. So if you have, say, like a new client or lead in Karbon, you can sync it across to Boma and they will then be added as a contact. And as one of our users said, and I'll talk about sort of how our users feel about Boma in a minute, campaigns that used to take hours can now be set up and sent in minutes. And if you think about where, as an accounting firm, you really want to be spending your time, it's going to be on helping clients, obviously where you can, be billing them hours and sort of adding that value. You don't necessarily want to be spending it writing content, fiddling around with sort of 2 or 3 different softwares to send out, what you can send out in Boma in just a few minutes. Um, Now, I think it is important to say that especially when you're doing email, and I know we did talk about this in the email session, um, it's really all about getting personal. And here's, some advice on moving from doing marketing or just doing marketing to doing marketing well. And just to sort of recap what we talked about in terms of segmentation, and again, this is all possible within Boma, and you can see in the screenshot there, you've got tags, which we talked about, and you can tag basically your client list, your prospect list in any way that makes sense to you. But I'll give you an example. In your database, maybe you've got some tradies, maybe you've got some retail businesses, a collection of professional service firms, and maybe some individuals. Now, the point here is that they all have different needs and different challenges. For example, a plumber's not going to have the same challenges or specific requirements as a retailer. And using these tag systems mean that you can segment your clients, your prospects, by industry. Maybe it's by the service that you provide them. Maybe it's by the location, whatever makes sense to you and your firm. And the point here is that when you segment them by using these tags, you can then send them the content that really matters to them. So again, in this case, this example, your tradies are going to get an article about managing cash flow in a seasonal business, whereas your retail clients are going to get content about, technology side of inventory management, and your professional services clients are going to get content about scaling without adding overhead. And really, the result of these by going personal is that you're going to see better results. So think higher open rates for your emails, more engagement, and critically, clients who actually think my accountant gets me, they understand me, they know what my business is, they know what I need, and I feel good about using them. Um, and the good thing here is that, when it comes to segmenting your database, it's pretty simple to make a start. You could do two basic segments. You could do, clients and non-clients. Or maybe as maybe it's, businesses and individuals. And then you can build on from there. And the great thing is that, as you get more sort of confident and you sort of start sending out more campaigns, you'll start to see what resonates with all these different segments and industries. Because obviously Boma tracks all of this. So tracks open rates, click rates, engagement rates, and that just not only goes for email, but also goes for all your social media posts as well. So you can see what posts are resonating, what they're sharing, and what is really, uh, adding value to your audience. Now, obviously, it's great for me to sort of sit here and blow my own trumpet, and I wouldn't expect you to take my word from it. But I will just say that, we are rated 5 stars on Xero Marketplace, and we're rated 5 stars on Google Business Review. So we can't be we can't be all bad. And just to sort of, you can see a few reviews that I lifted here, and I just want to talk about a couple of them. And so one firm talks about competing with larger firms. And so they are basically a two-partner firm, and they basically talk about, with Boma, they can compete against larger firms that have, marketing people, and they can produce the same quality of content and marketing as the big players, but without paying the big agency costs. Another one highlights the time and cost savings. So they used to spend thousands on content creation. Now that it's all handled through Boma, or at least 90%, they are looking at sort of how to make adjustments to the email targeting and on their sort of wider marketing strategy. A lot of reviews talk about Boma as being easy to use, time saver, user friendly, great support and relevant content from trustworthy sources. And if you'd like to verify this, please do go to our Google reviews. Please go to Xero Marketplace, and you can read a few of these in more detail. And the reason that I bring these up is not because they're just aspirational, is that it's actually real firms who are doing marketing now, and before they weren't, they were just talking about doing it. And all of the firms that I've just mentioned, they're all from firms that are very much like yours. So they range from solo practitioners to those small to medium-sized firms, and they're now to stay visible both to their clients and the marketplace without either burning themselves or their staff out or having to spend, a lot more than they would have wanted to on a marketing strategy. So before I hand over to Nina, I'll just say, look, if this is resonating with you, if you're struggling to find the time for marketing, especially with everything we've covered over the last 7 weeks, give Boma a go. And my challenge to you is that, if you are trialing it, and Nina will talk about this more in a minute, send one campaign, whether it's a social or an email, pick an article from the library, see how easy it is to customize it, and then send it to yourself and your clients. Um, I think, as Nina's mentioned before, if you have any questions or want to see a personalized demo for your firm, just reach out. Um, we're here to help you implement, everything that we've been teaching. Because, here's the thing, everything that we've covered again, it does, I'm not gonna lie, it does require consistent effort. And I think Nina as well has sort of talked about the consistency that you need with your marketing and your communication. One doesn't get, fit through running once. One doesn't just get clients through doing one email or one social post. You have to be consistent. But I suppose the premise of Boma is that you can be consistent with doing all these things, and you can do it, in just half an hour rather than sort of 5 to 10 hours per week. And Nina, look, I'll hand back to you. Thanks so much for having us, by the way. We've really enjoyed our time with all your clients and enjoyed spending time with you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for the presentation. And as you said, I think I want to reinforce this. A lot of times, I've been in marketing for 25 years now. Just for reference to anybody who doesn't know, I am lucky enough to carry the marketing director title at Accounting CPD, and I'm incredibly honored to be working with this long-standing company. But I have been in marketing for 25 years, and the one thing that stays consistent as, as something that I see across businesses is that very often people will think that marketing is incredibly easy. It probably shouldn't be taking long. And then they decide to go into marketing, particularly new businesses, like new starting businesses. They'll go into marketing, and all of a sudden, something they assumed was going to take them an hour ends up being a week worth of work. And that realization very often hits in the early days of starting a business, and people tend to pull back. So where they started, they went in full speed. They did quite a lot of talk, let's say, on social media. They sent a lot of emails initially. This wears you down. It is hard work to try and stay consistent, because also once you start engaging with your audience starts engaging back. So this is something that you have to also be ready for. The more consistent you are, the more consistently you will receive responses. So this starts to become a two-way communication, and it can be incredibly daunting. It can be incredibly difficult. At the same time, you have to keep up creativity. It's no wonder why some companies have larger marketing departments as opposed to any other department, because you need people's eyes. Even in the age of AI, you still need people's eyes, you still need people's attention and people's ability to notice other people when you're doing your marketing. Long story short, what I'm trying to say is that um, if you are starting or running a practice, you will soon stumble upon the fact that being consistent in marketing requires effort, and it requires a lot more effort than you can actually assume that it does. Having a platform like Boma, particularly around expert written content, can, in this instance, be an absolute lifesaver. Because the one thing that will probably consume the most amount of mental time and the most amount of mental real estate from you and anyone on your team is actually being consistent with the type of content that you're doing. Using Boma will help you with that. And excuse me for saying it in this way, Charles, but in all fairness, at this point in time, Boma is dirt cheap. It is
Yeah.
incredibly, it is, especially with that offer. This is just me being a human, not a marketer. Not a marketer, not a salesperson, just being a human. Having it at, at the cost, at the price point we currently do, is incredibly efficient. And if you get to use the offer that you can see on your screens at the moment, you have 1 year to grow your business with Boma. And then you will very soon realize that it actually pays for itself. With the amount that you are going to save in time and also in consultancy fees and in freelancer fees, is just incomparable to anything else out there. So, as a summary, it has been incredible to go on that journey and look into all of these aspects of digital marketing. I think it was a nice refresher for myself as well to actually remember what it is that we do. And I hope it has been useful for you. Do not forget that everything we spoke about is important, but it doesn't all need to be tackled at once. You can focus on your social media for 1 month until you get into a habit, until you get yourself into a place that feels as if it doesn't consume your entire being when you need to come up with it. You can focus on your website for a couple of months until, again, you create a routine that makes life easy. You can tackle every single aspect, just one task at a time. Because even with AI, or any computer system for that matter, you cannot give them three or more, or even two or more tasks. That reminds me of the little robots on a mission on Mars. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, Charles, but there was a
Oh, the
little
Mars
robot.
rover.
Yeah,
Right.
that was sent, and at some point, the programmers that sent the task just forgot to account for the fact that it might be sent too many tasks in a row. And when when it experienced a struggle and the tasks started piling, the robot just froze. It just stopped and did nothing, which I think very often happens to all of us. I can see that Christian here has a question. I will just push the button and allow you to talk, Christian, if you'd like. There we go. I can see the hand raised. I'm not sure if that's a mistake, but you're welcome to ask your question.
Or pop it into the Q&A or chat equally, if that's easier.
Okay, so that might have actually been a mistake. Well, I mean, we're happy to answer any questions, and we're happy to answer these questions now or via email later, as Charles did say. If you'd like to take the opportunity to have a personalized demo of Boma, you can get in touch with them and you can ask all of your questions related specifically for your own company. And you can use them to help you design your action plan, at least for the first couple of months. As always, we will send you the recording of today along with an email, and very soon the entire series of the growth webinar series will be available for you to watch one after the other. And again, I think we will probably rerun this at some point in 2026. So if you do feel like you would enjoy a rerun, we'd love to see you again. I hope this was useful. Thank you very much, Charles. It's been a pleasure and a privilege.
Oh, well,
And
thanks
I
for
look
having me. And
forward.
gotta say, I've really enjoyed your takes on and sort of your comments as well. As you say, with marketing, as I'm sure with so many things, there's always someone with a different or new or sort of more
Mm,
evolved opinion. So it's always nice to sort of chat to another marketing person and sort of because so often we don't necessarily talk to each other. So
mm,
it's
correct.
great to keep learning.
Wonderful. And one last thing before we wrap it up. Today's value add is going to be an ROI calculator. This ROI calculator aims to help you determine what it actually costs you to create marketing for your company. So it does have a few questions for you to answer. It kind of reminded me the first time I saw it, Charles, it reminded me of a mortgage application calculator.
Hopefully not as onerous or painful, but yeah, but
No, no.
basically it will I think there's maybe ten questions and each one has
Mm,
a little slider bar. So,
yeah.
how long does it take you to do this? How many emails you do a
Mm,
month? You can probably complete it in just a couple of minutes. And as Nina said,
exactly.
it will then actually sort of look, the costs may, we've taken an average, the
Mm,
average of costs, but you'll get a bit of an idea for like, okay, it would cost me if I was going to do 3 emails and sort of 15 social posts a month with the content and all the software. This would be about how many pounds it would cost, and then
mm,
you can sort of compare it to Boma and get a bit of an idea of what the savings would be.
exactly. So it does have a few questions, so it's not a couple of questions calculator, but at the same time, it will give you a much more accurate prediction of what it would cost you on average. I did try it, and it's pretty accurate. I'd probably say I don't think it could get any more accurate than that. So you will get a good understanding of what it actually costs you, all things included, to run your marketing and how you can make that more efficient with Boma. So once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I do hope we see you around again in the future. And thank you very much, Charles.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nina. Take care.